Hearties, we have a treat for you today. We have Mr. Potster, the bird singing in your ear, Mr. Brian Bird. Hello, sir. Thank you so much for coming back and seeing us again.
Oh, I'm pleased to be with you, Cammie and Sarah. It's so nice to be on your podcast. Love doing this.
Well, we love having you. And actually, that's something that we want to start with because you are indirectly responsible for us becoming friends. So we wanted to share a little bit of the story with you, and for anybody else who still, I don't know how they wouldn't have, but anybody who hasn't heard the story can hear some of it now.
Well, I'd love to hear it too. And what's nice about that is that, you know, I feel like When Calls the Heart has done that for quite a lot of people, you know, out there. All the Hearties parties that happen around the country and even in other countries, you know, I think there's a lot of friendships that have been created out of the show, and I've always felt like that's the probably the most important legacy of When Calls the Heart will be those lifelong friendships that started as a result of the show, and that couldn't make me any more proud or you know, grateful. So yeah, let me hear your story. I'd love to know.
Well, first of all, there's no way that we would have met if it hadn't been for the show, because I live in Texas and Sarah lives in Washington. So there you have that.
Yes.
Yes. Logistically speaking, we were not bound to meet.
Okay, you start, babe.
Well, we were both in the official Hearties group on Facebook, and we found ourselves commenting on all of the same posts and saying a lot of the same similar comments, most specifically tied to the fact that we both had two young girls at the time that liked to watch the show with us and would act out different scenes and stuff like that. So we started kind of private messaging each other, getting to know each other, and just kind of talking about the silly stuff our kids did and how that tied to the show. Cammie was very welcome to become closer friends with me, and I was very leery of the whole online social media thing. So we private messaged for a very long time before I finally was like, okay, I'll give you my phone number.
Well, we got each other's phone numbers because we created a fan fiction story together, and so we both said, okay, I think this is our initiation. We can give phone numbers now.
Yeah, and that's how it started. We saw some fan fiction on the website, and we were like, this is really good, but we think we could do an even better story. And so we're like, wouldn't it be cool if this was what was happening? And we just started writing fan fiction together, and one thing led to another, and now we're working on a novel.
Well, that's a really cool new wrinkle in the, you know, sort of the Hearties friendships, a brand new set of writing partners. I think that's a really cool thing.
We're working on a novel.
Yeah.
We have one screenplay that we're working on together, and
fantastic.
And we've written how many fan fiction stories have we written? A lot.
8 or 9. Yeah.
Amazing.
We wrote what was it? 3 versions of Jack coming back at Christmas time. Wow. After he left, before it happened.
Right.
We always like to keep current with the show. So we wrote 3 or 4 versions of Jack coming back. Wow. We wrote 2 stories about Faith and Carson. We wrote a story.
One which I have to say was quite timely because it involved a quarantine.
Yes, it involved a quarantine.
And that was well before COVID. So.
Wow, you guys are foreshadowing real life here. That's very
apparently.
And then we wrote one about Henry and Abigail, and one of our favorites is we wrote one about Jack having PTSD after he came back, before they got married, and that one is still that one. And we came up with our own Nathan story before
we'd met Nathan.
Yeah,
we just knew
before we even met Nathan, we were writing about a Mountie coming into town that Jack had saved.
Wow.
And then when we found out the name of the new Mountie who was coming in, we said, we probably should change his name from Andrew to Nathan. Okay, we'll do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, and we've been best friends for 5 years now.
About 5 years now,
Yeah.
and have never met in person.
Never met.
Wow.
I say that she's the best friend I've never hugged yet.
Oh, well, that's very true. Well, Lord willing, if we get a season 10, which we're very hopeful about, we don't know for sure, but we're hopeful about it. We're gonna and if the Canadian border will cooperate with us and COVID will cooperate with us,
Sure.
We really are hoping at least to try to stage some live event up in Vancouver, like our Hearties family reunions.
Yeah.
And our hope is there. Whether the real world will cooperate with us, we don't know yet. But
Exactly.
If we do, we want to do it. And so that would give at least another reason for you guys to sync up in person. So
Yes, we were trying to do the musical. We were trying to do the musical,
right.
but Cammie's already committed to an event that got rescheduled for the exact same day.
Oh, bummer. Well, we would have loved to have seen you there. It's coming up in June.
Yeah.
In June, and so we
It
just
sounds like so much fun.
We're going to be there again. We love the musical is fantastic, and for those who haven't experienced or haven't been able to listen to the music, because you can get the music now, I think, on the platforms.
Ooh, listen up, Hearties.
Yeah, it's terrific. It's really good. It's Broadway quality music. And so I urge all Hearties who haven't yet figured out if they could make it to really dig down deep and see if they can make it to Indiana for the encore performance of When Calls the Heart the musical and the Hearties VIP weekend. So
excuse me while I go cry.
June 24, 25, I think is the weekend.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
well,
don't get me wrong. I'm
sure,
thrilled to be going to Rama Drama and hosting events there, but
well,
it is sad. I was a theater major with an emphasis in musical theater. So
I'm a big fan of Rama Drama too, and all the folks there. And we actually have a relationship with Gabriel, who is the director of the Rama Drama, and we made a movie here recently where we featured some winners from a contest with walk-on parts, and so that was a lot of fun too. So
great.
you won't be sorry you're going to that event.
Oh, I'm not. And I'm actually going because it's a signed, sealed, delivered, emphasized event.
Nice.
And so Casey and Jess and I are going as Deliver Me a Podcast. So,
oh, very cool. Very cool.
We're going there. So
I'm a big fan of Signed, Sealed, and Delivered too. So we're all family. Martha Williamson was my boss at Touched by an Angel.
Oh, gee, you knew her?
I know Martha well. She's a good friend. And she taught me a lot about how to make television. So I'm hugely in her debt for all she invested in me personally. It was really, really cool. So it's all good. Rama Drama, Signed, Sealed, and Delivered. When Calls the Heart the musical. It's all circling.
It's all good.
So much good.
Good values, very positive values in our culture, and we need more of all of it. So
yes,
agreed.
Yes.
Good for you guys. That's great.
Well, speaking of callbacks, because we're talking about the past. So we have noticed that in season 8 and season 9, there are so many callbacks, little lines or mentions of characters or references to scenes that happened in the past. So we were wondering, are those a collaboration effort, or does John Tinker just surprise you?
Well, a little bit of both. John is doing, and the writing team have done all the heavy lifting, on the last couple of seasons, and then prior to that, it was Alfonso Moreno,
Right.
our show, head writer and showrunner. After Michael and I sort of left that responsibility in the hands of other good people after the first few seasons, we sort of kicked ourselves upstairs to become sort of proud parents and grandparents of the show. Part of it is that when you do that job, you sort of give up your whole life for a while, and it's not a very family friendly kind of responsibility. It's very taxing, and moving up to Vancouver for 6 months at a time, like we had to, it's hard on family and all of that. So I think it's good that after a couple of seasons we were able to kind of kick ourselves upstairs. We're still deeply involved in the franchise, in making sure that everything comes off without a hitch. And I became sort of the face of the producers unit with the fans, and so I've been able to do that, and with our amazing volunteer team, have been able to put on all these Hearties family reunions,
right?
Part of just helping fuel the show. But John and the writing team are do all the heavy lifting, but John relies on Michael and I for ideas, for inspiration. So we have lots of contact with our writing team about each new season, and we hold it all we give ideas, but we hold it all with a loose grip, because we want those fine talents to take ownership of the process. And we read every script, we watch every edit of the episodes, and we give notes at this point, in that along the way, just
Sure.
Our suggestions, take them or leave them. But it's in our best interest for the show to resonate with the vision that we cast way back at the beginning. And John, I love him and how much he cares about that process. And so we get surprised sometimes we know it's coming, but other times we just get pleasantly surprised when we're reading scripts, months and months ago before they were filmed.
Oh, of course.
But I love that verisimilitude with the whole of the show, with the backstory, with the history of Coal Valley that became Hope Valley, in the third season, renamed it Hope Valley. And so we love the loyalty and honoring those older storylines, because we have a lot of the same characters that were there right at the beginning. And so the fact that we go back and tap that, rich vein of the origin story of When Calls the Heart, the show, for Michael and I, it's the best thing in the world, because, we made up all that stuff.
Right.
Or we were inspired by Jeanette's books, and then we, added to it. And so it's the funnest thing in the world to hear those references to us. And I think it's also good for the fans, because there's a sense of it's all of a piece,
Yeah.
The show's all of a piece. It's not schizophrenic, in that it doesn't, all these different personalities that come out in the show, they're integrated. And I love that. I love that part. So yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for asking, because it does mean a lot to us, and there's more to come.
Well, I think it really shows value for the fans, because they can pick up on things and be like, oh, I caught that, and I remember when that happened, and really it's more meaningful, I think.
Yeah, it's really actually cool for us too, because all Hearties, you pay really close attention, and it's so meaningful to us, because sometimes you see things we don't see.
Sometimes I think we see too much, and we're like seeing things that are not there.
Yeah, sometimes there are happy accidents that happen for us that are little mini miracles to me, when coincidences happen. Coincidence, I think not. Well, yeah, sometimes they actually are. They're not thought through, or, many times they are thought through, but sometimes it just happens, and it's a fun thing that happens when we see it. And, and we love it that the Hearties dig deeply, because if they didn't, it would mean they didn't care as much, right? And that's probably one of the most gratifying things to us is and I think the reason why the show has been successful is because the Hearties do care. And the Hearties are the Hearties. They are an army, a fan army that, it's a little scary sometimes, actually. They dig deeply so much that, sometimes they get so passionate about their feelings about the show, that, they get aggravated with us too. But that's actually a really good thing. It's a really good thing, even if it doesn't feel, happy and good all the time. It's
life.
Deep down, that's a great thing. Other shows may not attract that level of loyalty or that level of passion from their fans. And we're deeply honored by that, and always have been since the early days, when the Hearties first began talking to us way back in season 1. And they showed up, and we were just smart enough or lucky enough to make the decision to talk back to you guys. And that made all the difference in the world, I think, because I think that the Hearties honored us with their interest, and we honored them with our interest in them. And that for me has been one of the most fulfilling parts of this whole experience with One Calls the Heart.
Well, and I think, especially since Cammie and I got to know each other through this, and hearing you speak several times just about how, the Hearties got started, how, all the troubles that you guys went through to make the movie, and how it got delayed and everything. I just personally always go back to, this was meant to be. Yeah. Every piece of this was meant to be. It wouldn't, like you said, the social media wouldn't have been a thing if it had come out when it first came out. There are so many factors to this that wouldn't have made it the success that it is. And it wouldn't have affected the fans the way it has, which then might have impacted the longevity, and just so many factors. I'm blown away with.
It's very true. And it's interesting, in this 9th season, we've had this sense of, sentimentality about it, because, every season, you never know whether it's the last one or not. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And as a show gets older, and like we have been on so long, you're always sort of looking over your shoulder thinking, okay, well, is this it? Will this be all she wrote? And I don't think that's the case, but I've had this sense of sentimentality about the early seasons, and all the rise of the Hearties. And I've felt it. It's there. I felt some similar vibes out of this year that I did in the first season. I think people are rallying around the show almost more intensely than they have for a long time, even on Twitter, in the trending that we're doing every week, and the fact that all of our actors are showing up every week like they did, in the first season. I just have this sense there's something really special about this year. And maybe it's also because we were also, we all were a little gun shy after, the way season 8 ended with, kind of some deep seated division, among some of the fans. I do think it was a small number, to be honest. I'm not trying to minimize all the people that were Team Nathan or the people that were Team Lucas. I'm not trying to say that's a small number of people. But what I think I am saying is the people that were most deeply, divided or felt a sense of being wounded after season 8 and were so vocal about that. I do think that is a relatively small, group of people. Doesn't mean that there weren't others who might have felt that way, but I think that what I've always hoped for, at least, and prayed for, is that we have earned enough trust from the fans, even if they don't like everything we do, that they give us the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, maybe we do know what we're doing, and it's for the best. It's for the benefit of the show and the fans that we make the decisions story-wise that we do. I hope so. I think, part of it's the blessing and the curse of how fast the show has grown. How big.
I didn't think about that.
Right, because in the early days there was this core group of Hearties that were just so deeply passionate about the show. And again, they didn't agree with everything we did, but they got our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
They understood that there's not any ill will in our hearts toward them or toward the audience. We want everybody to be blessed by the storytelling. So, but people found it on other platforms. They watched it on Netflix, or they watched it on Amazon, or YouTube, or wherever. And I think there's a lot of new Hearties that came in that maybe weren't part of the originals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
that's us. It's both of us.
Yeah. And in some don't know the story of how the Hearties rose, out of the grassroots of our culture. And those who do remember that, and that's why I have this sense of nostalgia this year about how it looked and felt in the early years. There's this something in the air, something in the water, that reminds me of that. And I'm seeing just people really rooting for the show more intensely than I have in the past. And I think maybe deep down they realize it's important to root for this show because it won't be around forever. And I hope it is, but but it won't. Every show, unless you're The Simpsons, which are like in season 40 or something. But it won't be around forever. And when it's gone, I think it will be around in reruns for a long time, I think. So that'll be good, but not new episodes. At some point we won't make new episodes. So I think there will be kind of a hole in the culture, when that happens. And it will, but I just think people realize that, and they're just saying, okay, well, we got to protect this show. We got to be all in right now. And that is so cool for us. I mean, And so such a blessing for us to know that we still have, the Hearties have our backs, and they're with us and they trust us that we're going to do right by them.
I'm thinking that though also that you have inspired so many people with this show that there won't be a hole. There will be a lot of Hearties stepping up to fill
Good.
that hole.
God bless, from your lips to God's ears. That's awesome. And I do think you're right. I think that they will fill the gap and they will be there for each other. And those lifelong friendships like you guys have, to me, I could end my career and say, hey, I helped facilitate something special, and that would be a deep point of pride for me. Even if it all ended now, I could be happy and be satisfied about that. And the Hearties will take the baton and continue, somehow, some way. And so that's very exciting.
Yeah.
The first time that we meet in person, we're going to take a selfie and we're going to put it on Twitter and we're going to say, for you, Brian.
We will do that. It'll happen.
I love that. I
I
that.
don't
so
know
much.
when.
I don't know,
But it will
when.
happen. Oh, she's singing. Here we go.
I'll stop before I get going.
Okay,
I told
finish
you,
your question.
musical theater major.
Yes.
So going back to callbacks, just two quick questions as a follow-up. What would you say would be your favorite callback since John Tinker took over? Because going to this favorite callback in general, it would be too difficult. So what would be your favorite callback that we've heard either in season 8 or season 9 so far? And we've watched up to episode 5 at the time of this recording.
Yes.
So
yes. Yeah, and there's one you're going to see in episode 6 that's very cool.
Dang.
Oh, we're going to watch for it.
Oh, yes. We will watch for it. Yes.
I would say the one that plucks my heartstrings the most are the references to Henry and Abigail and their relationship and the friendship that they had and just the deep ties. Abigail, helped him pass some big hurdles in his life and some big flaws that he was struggling with. And goes back all the way back to season 1. Abigail lost her husband in that mine accident. Watch episode 6 of season 9, specifically in that category.
Okay.
By the time you guys roll this out on social media,
everybody will know what you're talking about.
So I'm not going to blow it for you two right now, but you'll get it tomorrow. But no, I love that. And I don't know if you guys happen to catch our 2 Christmas episodes over on GAC.
Oh, we did.
Of When Hope Calls. But we're even dropping those little callbacks over there, right?
Yes, you are.
So,
all of them.
Yeah, and even in a dream sequence, we're doing it. It's just that to me is very gratifying, and to be honest, it was very gratifying for us to have Abigail, have Lori Loughlin join that show for the Christmas episodes, and also Carter, young old big man Cody now join us over there in Brookfield. It was really meaningful to spend time with Lori and to hear more of her story and to see her heart and where she's at in her life. And I've always hoped that she could come back to Hope Valley. I don't know if that's possible. Up till now, it hasn't been, but we just thought, okay, well, we can do it over in Brookfield because, we get to make those decisions. So
absolutely,
it was really neat. But I do love that, specifically the invoking the Henry Abigail relationship like that.
Okay, hold that thought because that question is next.
Okay.
But before we go there, if you could pick a character that has not been called back,
Mm.
who would you pick?
Old character could come back in season 10, even for one episode.
You mean a character who might have left the show, or the character has not been back, you're saying?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
maybe somebody from the black hole, or
Or someone who has grown up and gone, and any one of those. I mean, there was talk that Gabe would come back as a Mountie and he would be married to Rachel, so those two would come back, you know, for
Yeah.
an episode.
Yeah,
So
you know, there's so many. I mean, there's so many. I mean, part of the challenge of our show is that, you know, when we only film for about 4 or 5 months
right.
every year, you know, those kids grow up, right? Only the really young ones, you know, seem to like stay small a long time, and you know, we're surprised every year when we go back and see those kids. You know, sometimes the boys have beards the next year, and sometimes the girls they've gone through a development, beards and chests. So they just grow up, right? And so it makes it challenging because the show, roughly, we're trying to track a year at a time with the show, right?
Sure.
But sometimes the kids look like they've gone more than a year. And so that makes it difficult for us. So that's one of the reasons. And Hearties are always asking that, you know, why did they go into the black hole? Well, it's because they're adults now, you know, or the other practical, you know, real world practical answer to that question is Vancouver, where we film out, you know, we film in Langley outside of Vancouver.
Right.
Vancouver is Hollywood North.
Right.
There are more, at any given time, there are more than 200 productions happening.
wow.
in
Wow.
Vancouver, right? And Cammie, you know this, you know, from your work, you know, there's kids are always in demand, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
our kids and their families and their moms and dads, they love that they do When Calls the Heart. They want desperately to leave us in first position. But sometimes there are other shows that jump in and they're big giant hits on networks or whatever. And it's very difficult for those kids to be able to do both, right? And
Yeah.
so sometimes that's why some of those characters,
Yeah.
you know, have to leave. I especially loved Kat from season 1.
Oh, Kat.
Right?
We love
We
Kat.
love to see her.
And that was a case of us just losing her availability
Yeah.
when we got into the season 2 and 3. We just couldn't get her back. But she was great. She was great in the show. And so anyway, that, you know, it's just that it's tricky for us. And you know, obviously, you know, Daniel Lissing, you know, we had him in a dream sequence over on When Hope Calls,
Which
but
was the perfect way to do it, in my opinion.
yeah, you know, I mean, they didn't bury an empty casket
No.
Right.
at the end of season 5. You know, the casket was not empty. So all the narratives that come up where people say, oh, you know, it was mistaken identity, you know, or his, you know, he was mangled beyond, you know, in the cave-in, you know,
But now he looks fine. He can come back and look fine now.
basically mistaken identity, and maybe he'll,
Right.
you know, have amnesia and he'll show up, you know. I mean, this is not Bewitched in the 1960s where you can actually recast a character. And we love Dan. We wanted for Dan to have a blessed life and to be able to go pursue all his dreams. There was no conspiracy about why he left. And, you know, some people, you know, thought there was some sort of, you know, the decks were stacked against him or it was a conspiracy against him. No, he wanted to leave the show. So we said, sure, you're a real person. We want you to flourish in your life. But we had to give the audience a catharsis at the end of season 5, because any other choice, the Hearties would have hated us. I know they would have.
It's so true.
Yeah, if Jack had broken up with Elizabeth, they would have hated Dan, and they would have hated us, the writers, the producers.
That's not possible.
Right?
Yeah.
If Elizabeth had broken up with him, they would have hated Aaron for that. Right? If his Mountie duty was more important than marrying Elizabeth, he'd gone off and done his Mountie duty, and taken another job somewhere, they would have hated us. There just was absolutely no other good solution. And recasting was never a factor. Recasting Jack,
it would never have worked.
Another actor, people would have hated it. You can't. Daniel Lissing was Jack. You can't recast that character. It's not 1960s cheesy television. So
and it hadn't been a couple episodes. It'd been 5 years. It's not. Yeah.
Yes. Right. He was Jack, and he continues to be honored in the show. Mountie Jack continues to be honored in the show,
which is one of my favorite things that you guys do.
Yeah, and his namesake child is in the show. So we, it was the right choice. It was a hard choice for a lot of people. Some people, like in season 8, we had this same sort of apocalyptic reaction with some people, and they said, we will never come back to your show. Well, I think they mostly came back. I could be wrong, but I think they mostly gave it a second look. And I've heard plenty of, testimonials of people who said, I vowed never to be back, and I'm glad I did. Right. So it was the only choice and we have really good reasons why Elizabeth and Lucas are together too. Right. Really good reasons for that. Could we have done it a different way? Maybe we didn't have to go on with the love triangle as long as we did, but it also kept people engaged in a huge way in the show.
that is definitely true.
I honestly believe that. I think, and it's not, I have to say, we get like this, accused that it's a ratings scheme. Yes, it is.
That's
Why
how you
would we not do that?
It's out.
Yeah, if you have a product you sell at Walmart or at some other store, you're judged by how well the product sells.
Yep.
Ratings are not a bad thing. Ratings are a good thing. It's why the show continues, is that the ratings are strong, right? That's how you're judged as to whether you have a good show or not. So it's not a bad thing. Ratings are not a bad thing. We love ratings.
Ratings rule.
Yes, Hearties love ratings too. They love rooting for the numbers when they get them, every week that they show up. So, it's just, that's such a fallacious argument for people to say, oh, it's just a ratings game. Yes, it is. It's how you're judged on whether the show should continue or not. So we're guilty. We're guilty of wanting good ratings. Yes, we are.
But you don't get good ratings if you don't have good writing. That's just a fact.
I believe that. And, other shows use controversy or sex and violence and language and dead bodies and zombies to get ratings. What do we use? We use love. We use hope. We use happy endings. And because the audience is starved to death for that, nobody can accuse us of putting toxic pollution out in the culture like some other shows do. You know, when you watch other shows, they're so cynical. They're just oozing with cynicism, and you have to take a shower when you're done watching them because you feel bad about yourself. This is most other shows. So yes, we're guilty of giving people just oodles of hope, faith, and love. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
How dare
Yeah, how dare us?
How dare you?
That's a horrible thing we're doing. But, you know, we will ride that to the ratings crown as long as we possibly can. We will never stop doing that. And we will always give Hearties the show that they've always gotten. It gives them all the feels and gives them forgiveness and redemption and sacrifice and communities helping one another and all of that. And we will always give that in this show.
Well, you mentioned Gowan.
Funny that.
But even beyond Gowan, something we were talking about before was season 9 really seems to have kind of an overarching theme of redemption, moving on, new beginnings, those kinds of themes throughout a lot of the different characters. I think Gowan's the one that always comes to mind when you hear the word redemption, but I'm seeing bits of that with the Canfields and even with, you know, the fresh start of Elizabeth and Lucas and Nathan kind of having a fresh start with having adopted Allie. I'm seeing that kind of everywhere I look.
Right, kind of like a book that's published that has a new chapter or different chapters in it, right?
Exactly. So how does, I mean, to me, that's what it seems kind of an overarching theme for the year, and maybe I'm wrong, but how do you take a deep kind of view of where you want that whole season to go and how you want all of those themes to rise up? And how do you, especially like you talked about earlier with not knowing if this is the last season, how do you try to create a story that can wrap up nicely enough, but also set up lots of new storylines for next year?
Until they tell us to resolve a season finale, we will always give cliffhangers. And
we have been warned.
Yeah.
There we go.
And you will get cliffhangers this year too. So we, you know, usually when a show ends, because I've been part of 2 shows that have ended. Actually, after season 9, both shows. I did a show called Step by Step for years, and I did a show called Touched by an Angel for years. And we knew, you know, during the season that the show was ending, and we ended it. We wrote. You were able to, right. Well, that's never come up for us with the Hallmark Channel or, you know, anybody that has stakes in the show. So when that happens, then we'll have a conversation about it. But we're not going to go willingly because we think there's a lot of show left. And again, you know, we saw When Hope Calls move to a different network. So as long as we feel like there's still show to tell, we get to make that decision. Now, Hallmark could at some point say, you know, we think it's, you know, time to move on to a new show or whatever. And we will give them a big hug and say, we love you. Thank you so much. And you can find us over at another network. You know, now that may not happen, but that's our attitude, because we think there's a lot of show left. There's plenty of show left here. Right. And so far, you know, we just keep, you know, we pitch, you know, our writing staff pitches stories to the network, and the network has to sign off on those. Mm-hmm. So
do you see redemption as being kind of a big key for this year?
It is. It's, to be honest with me, it's always a factor on the show, because I think that, you know, the hero's journey, if as writers, you guys know about the hero's journey, right?
Oh yeah.
The hero's journey goes back 5,000 years of human history.
Very true.
And it's the same story. And there's 12 stages of the hero's journey. And you can look this up, just look it up on Google, just do a Google search and you'll see it.
I have it in all my notes from the workshop I took from you.
Yes, exactly. So here's the thing. The hero's journey has a stage roughly in Act 3, if you were doing this as a movie script.
Mhm.
Guess what it's called? The stage is called the resurrection.
Oh, the resurrection. Okay.
And every movie has some sort of a resurrection. Every good movie, I should say. Maybe some postmodern garbage doesn't. But every good movie that's based on traditional storytelling and classic reasoning will have that hero's journey in it, and it will have a resurrection of some kind. Gee, that's really interesting, right? That the greatest story of all time ends with a resurrection. Well, 2,000 years before Jesus resurrection in the Bible, Gilgamesh is resurrected in ancient Sumeria in the epic poem of Gilgamesh. So resurrection is in our blood. It's in the water. It's what we're hungry for. Hope Valley is a place of resurrection and redemption. So it's always going to be a big theme. Is it deeply embedded in season 9? Absolutely. More so than other seasons, maybe a little, but not much more, because it's what everybody wants, right? We all want a rebirth of something, a rebirth of a dream, of a hope, of a job, of a literal resurrection, if we could get it. There were plenty of Hearties who were asking for that, after season 5. They don't really do literal resurrections in Hope Valley, but we resurrect other things and we redeem other things, regularly in the storytelling. And it's a core tenet of Michael and me and John and everybody on the writing team. They all believe in redemption stories. And so it'll always happen.
Awesome.
So once again, up until this point, when we are recording, we have only seen 5 episodes of season 9.
Right.
So what the next question we have for you is, pick a favorite episode from season 9 so far.
So far.
Well, yes, you can tell us which one's your favorite later.
Like, which one should we watch for? But which one is your favorite so far? And then if your real favorite comes after season 5, episode 5, then we will.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell everybody, you better be there for 8 and 9 this year.
8 and
you better
9.
Be there for 11 and 12. Okay. Better be there. If you miss those, you're going to be haunted for the rest of your lives. Okay.
8 and 9 and 11 and 12, right?
Yes.
Sarah and I both wrote it down. We wrote it down.
Now, counting from 6 backwards, I'm going to say 5. Episode 5.
That's I don't know if it's Peter's writing or
Peter did an amazing job. I mean, the writing of the show is a very collaborative process.
It is. Sure.
Writing teams. I've done 350 episodes plus of television in my career. They're all written by the Borg in Star Trek, right? It's the hive mind. Everybody jumps into the hive and they're part of the hive, and everybody collaborates. Peter hit it out of the park. Absolutely did. and he's a great writer. He's a great director. We love him so much. But two things from episode 5 that I just gasped over. The scene with the Canfields and Mr. Landis having dinner with the Canfields and sitting next to Angela at the piano. And when she says, "Don't hold me back, Mr. Landis," that rings true on about 10 levels of life, right?
Absolutely.
And powerful, dialogue, a chord of dialogue, like a chord of music, but it was a chord of dialogue right then. Because she was talking about "don't hold me back" on the keyboard, but it had so many other meanings. And then his redemption story in the moment too, and his decision to go back to becoming a music teacher and to stop being a bean counter bureaucrat, right? I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That was powerful. I also love the exchange when Lucas comes in all grimy faced, having to walk his motorcycle back in from.
Gee, did we have a conversation about that one, Sarah? It's vaguely familiar.
The most romantic dialogue that we've had since season 5 happened right in that moment between him and Elizabeth.
I would probably have to agree.
Yeah, the "if we should marry" exchange, so powerful, and so, I will say, so sexy too, right? honestly, so
Yeah,
so
true.
moving, right? But in a chaste way, not in a weird way, but
Yeah.
right, in an uplifting way. Just love that. And so there were many things about the episode that I loved too. I loved episode 4 too, but I have to say 5 so far.
5 is definitely at the top of my list, but I'm glad you mentioned 4, because I have to say that was, I've always been team Hope Valley, team Elizabeth, whatever she decides kind of offense with the teams, but not having a really good grasp of what Lucas would be like with little Jack, I was just down a little bit.
Yep.
I needed that. Episode 4 was what I needed to be 100%.
Yeah,
fully.
there was great moments in episode 4. They were it was right there with episode 5. I mean, he's conked out on her couch because it's been a long day being a babysitter, and she just says "I love you" to him, and he doesn't hear it, right? That was powerful. But so was Pascal, Mary, reading that letter, that testimonial to Elizabeth, in the wake of the bad reviews, right?
Well, talk about a chord. That to me had so many levels.
Yeah. And honestly, there's no doubt that was inspired by what we all went through at the end of season 8.
By true events.
There's no doubt. It was a gentle message back to the Hearties that your words matter, both good and bad. The hurtful ones matter, and so do the good ones. And the fact that the icing on the cake was the letter from the woman who was giving a testimony of how Elizabeth's book helped her through a hardship.
Yeah.
Right. Well, guys, we see those testimonials all the time on social media. When we do the Hearties family reunions that we've done 5 of them so far, prior to COVID. We have an open mic night, and it's church. I'm telling you, it's church. There are so many stories, and there's not a dry eye in the house. And there's 500 Hearties in that room. And there's not a dry eye in the house, because people tell their stories of how deeply impactful When Calls the Heart has been in their lives. And for us, we're just we're just wet noodles by the end of this thing. Honestly, because for us, that's a gift back to us. I mean, that, for people to tell us that it's meant, the show is what it's meant to them is a gift back to us. You can't top that, right? The ratings are great, but those are the best ratings ever. It's like that letter that Rosemary read to Elizabeth through the window there. So it wasn't veiled at all. It was just a bald-faced,
No. Yeah.
This is our message to you guys. We love you, and it matters. What you feel matters to us. Good, bad, or ugly, it matters.
Sarah, if we ever make it to a Hearties family reunion, I am dragging you on that stage with me. The story will not happen without you.
We're a team.
Open mic night, baby.
Oh, goodness. Well, we were hoping you could maybe give us a little tease on When Hope Calls. What's coming with that? We're going to start
keep
soon.
the faith. Yeah, keep the faith. We've been sort of waiting out the winter weather in North Bay, and there is more coming. But it doesn't happen, how should I say? It's not quite as easy a footprint as Hope Valley and Langley are for us.
Right.
So we're working on it.
Are there scripts already being worked on and a good plan?
I will say, I will affirm that question.
Done and done.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, hopefully you can come back on when that is more firmed up and when we maybe are seeing some episodes of that coming on.
Yeah, and there's so many cool and fun things happening right now, that are just an amazing, it's really just a God, thing right now. And and we will be able to talk about them later, but some of them revolve around When Calls the Heart and When Hope Calls. Others revolve around other projects, and so it's going to be fun when we're able to really talk about them. And they're all Hearties, like they're all perfect, like, concepts and projects for the Hearties to sink their teeth into. So we're excited about the future. And honestly, the way Michael and I and the rest of us feel, John and all of us involved in When Calls the Heart, the way we feel is we're Goonies, and this is our time.
I love it.
This is our time. That there's more hunger for this kind of TV and entertainment content, and more interest than ever before in more of it. So, and we seem to be kind of lightning rods in this category. It's not the hippest thing in the world to do When Calls the Heart, like in Hollywood, I should say. Our peers, they look at this and go, okay, well, good for you. But we want to do zombies. We want to do dead bodies. We want to do cannibals. We want to do all these other things. And as for me and my house, we will serve the Hearties. To be honest, I wear it as a badge of honor. Give it to me. I'll do it. I don't want to do that other stuff. This is what I've been called to do in my life, this kind of storytelling. And it's the only kind that I want to do. And because it's rare to find people who want to do it, we'll do it. I'll let Mikey eat it. I'll do it. So we will do that. And so there's lots of fun projects coming. And some of them are related to the world of Jeanette Oak, and others are completely new and fresh and different. But we're excited about that.
Well, now we are excited about
now
that.
we are excited. You should have seen Sarah and me when I finally got to watch the episode. We went, Gabe, Bill's talking to Gabe in Brookfield. we were freaking out about that. And said, we got to call back to Brookfield. That's awesome. So we flipped out a little bit over that.
Yeah,
I think it's all part of the same storytelling world, same storytelling universe. Both towns, they're at the same time, right? They're just in different zip codes. So and they're from the same creative brain trust that starts with Jeanette Oak, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I know you guys can't make it to Indiana for the encore of When Calls the Heart, the musical, which is coming at the end of June, but Jeanette Oak is going to be there.
Oh, God.
So she's coming. Her beloved husband Edward died this year, and so but she's doing fine. She's doing well, and she and her kids are coming to Napanee, Indiana, to experience the musical. So we're just thrilled about that.
Say hello for us.
We will. And, Jeanette loves the show. She just loves the show with all the twists and turns, because it's not it's not in the books anymore, because there's one When Calls the Heart book, and then there's other books in the Canadian West series, but they don't deal with the storytelling from When Calls the Heart and our town. So we've had to obviously expand the universe and the storytelling universe, but she loves it all, and we have lots of contact with her too. So
that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, the rumors of of some sort of discord between us, or that just doesn't exist. So
she seems so sweet. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me on, and I hope this has been I hope I haven't been too long-winded. But
we would stay up all night with you, Brian.
We would stay up all night if we had to.
Well, I love talking to you guys. Drop a few bombs in here, a few headline grabbers. So
there you go.
Feel free to make me clickbait.
What did Brian say was sexy?
Oh, Hearties, thank you so much for joining us and for listening to Papa Hearty himself tell us some stories, because that's what I feel like it always is, talking with you, Brian, and we just get to sit down on the rug at circle time and listen to a story.
Well, thank you guys for having such great questions, and for being open to hear from my heart, because you can tell it's coming right out. I just wear it on my sleeve.
That's so meaningful to both of us. Thank you so much.
And to so many out there. So good night to all of you, and we will see you later. Bye, Hearties.